Welcome to Talking Up Music Education, a podcast from the NAMM Foundation. The NAMM Foundation is working to assure that all children have the opportunity to learn and grow with music, and that music is part of daily living for everyone. Talking Up Music Education podcast shares news and stories about music education from teachers, students, parents, school, and community leaders who care about music education and are working to create more opportunities for music learning. And now, here's your host, Mary Lurson.
NAMM's Dan Del Fiorentino caught up with country music legends Emmylou Harris and Vince Gill in the green room just before they were honored at the 33rd Annual American Eagle Awards at the 2016 Summer NAMM Show in Nashville, Tennessee. Sitting in for Mary Lurson, Dan talked music education, the power of communicating through music, and the friends each has made over many years by attending the NAMM Show.
Thank you so much for taking some time for us. I really appreciate it. You know, one of our missions is to help encourage people to become music makers at all ages. And I think just hearing a little of your inspiration as far as what music means to you, I think would be very helpful to us. So maybe a good thing to talk about is a little bit of how you saw your passion for music develop.
Well, you know, I was kind of a late bloomer to music. I mean, I was always told that I was musical, you know, because I could sing. I was in some kindergarten plays where I sang. And, of course, I took piano lessons, which I was terrible at, and I didn't like. I regret that, actually. I didn't want to practice. And then in school, you had to take the song flute. And then in high school, because I was, quote, considered musical, I was in the band and went from clarinet to saxophone. And I did have a lovely band instructor, but I always wanted to please my teachers, but there was no passion there really. I sort of just did it very by rote. And then the folk music revival came along in the early 60s. And someone in my family got a guitar and wasn't interested in it. I picked it up, and all of a sudden, music, it was like this incredible, a veil was lifted, you know. Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, and the songs and the beauty of the music, the simplicity of it, I think. I found a place for my voice that I could actually accompany myself. I think that's maybe what I needed. And I love the folk music, and that's really what, I kind of never put the guitar down after that. You know, that was about 16, so it's been a long time.
What was the first guitar that you received?
I actually still have it. It's a $30 K. The guitar that the person first introduced me to was a gut string guitar, and I didn't know that the strings, metal strings on a guitar, were not supposed to be really high off the fretboard. Actually, it should have been a slide guitar, but I still learned to play it. I still got the scars. But it was a little K guitar, $30 from a pawn shop that my grandfather bought me. Then I graduated to Gibson J50, and on and on and on. So I've pretty much always just been a six-string acoustic guitar player.
So what's it like having a signature model? That must be kind of cool, thinking about your first one and how far you've come.
That was actually pretty great, getting a signature model. And they let me, you know, sort of decide what it was going to be. And at that point, I had a run-in with the carry-on, you know, getting your instruments through the security belt. And I had an M38 that was just this much too big in a soft case that they made me check with the baggage and the people's golf clubs and all that stuff. So fortunately it survived, but after that I was thinking I really need a full-size guitar that is small enough to go through the security. So that's when they came out with the what I call the Tiny E.
Did you make other modifications or suggestions?
No, I didn't really. At first it was more of a dreadnought shape, and then they went to, I think because I had played the regular size J200s, It had kind of become a signature, which I can't really take credit for that. It was just a fellow in Westwood Music in Los Angeles, a friend of mine, Fred Wallach, he had called me and said, I have the guitar for you. And it was the old J200 with the factory pickups that had belonged to Joe Walsh. That was my first J200, and after that I just kind of got attached to the J200s and became kind of the guitar that I played on stage. Recently I tore my rotator cuff, and while I was rehabbing, I found that the J200, the curve was a little too big for an angle. So I'm playing the J45s right now, but I'll get back to the J200s.
That's really neat. Maybe we can talk slightly about your role in inspiring other people, expression of your feelings through music and what that means to you.
That's kind of a touchy-feely question. I don't exactly know if I know how to answer that. Joseph Campbell, talks about following your bliss, and my bliss became, singing and then playing the guitar, folk music, and later just music, singing and playing. That was where I felt at home. I've been fortunate enough, really lucky actually, to be able to make my living that way, in the right place at the right time with wonderful people who have helped me. So I've never thought about doing anything else. It's still a joy for me. And music, yes, I love singing, and I love singing for people, recording, making music, but I also love listening to other people make music. So in that way, perhaps I can understand how what I do might affect other people, because other people affect me in that way. For me, it's almost as important as, air and water and food. I think it does, I know it sounds cliche, but music does feed the soul. I think it puts us in touch with ourselves and connects us to other people.
Yeah, well said. One last quick topic, it's not that quick, but we'll make it quick, and that is the connection that words and lyrics have. I was listening to the wonderful song that you wrote about your father, and the song of my life being sung by the moon that you hung. A fantastic connection of words that really inspire a lot of other people. I wonder what your thoughts are about that.
I think that lyrics have always were my entrance into music and singing. Obviously, I'm not an instrumentalist, and I'm still basically playing the same three chords. But it was always, the music is a vehicle for me, for the lyrics. I'm always moved, whether it's somebody else's song, I'm touched by what they're saying, what the words are saying. And in writing, for the most part, when I write, I start with lyrics. That's not always the case, which surprises me sometimes, that I actually might come up with a musical idea. I always feel a little that I'm a little limited in that area, but I'm so focused on the lyrics. They're still always the most important, because it's the story. For me, music is telling stories.
Well, I also think it's that connection too. Like Jerome Kern said of Irving Berlin, that he was blessed with every man's ear and heart. And I always thought that was really true. If you can connect words to other people, wow, I wish I had thought of that, or that's how I feel. And as a fan, I'm sure you've had that experience too.
Well, yeah, when I choose to sing someone else's song, it's because I feel like it's part of my story. And I guess that's how it connects us. There's only a certain number of human experiences. Certainly there are variations and different depths of experience. But basically, we're born, we live our lives, we fall in love, we get our heart broken, we feel joy, and then we face mortality. And it's the same for everyone. In that way, obviously, there's so many different variations, but there is a true kernel of truth when a song really hits and is right. Well, I think that Harlan Howard probably said it best, our wonderful songwriter who passed away a few years ago. He said, 3 chords and the truth is what country music is. And really, in a sense, that's what all music is. The songs that tell the story of our journey in this world.
Yeah, well said. So what's it like for you coming to the NAMM Show?
Oh man, you know what? These days, after doing this for as long as I have, 42 years, I kind of go more to see old friends than to really catch up on what's new and this and that. There's a side of it that's impossible to really understand what somebody has built or an amp that somebody has designed, or I can't really say that you can hear things great when you're here, but just the camaraderie of old friends is great. I went to my first NAMM show, I think in 1977, out in Los Angeles when I moved out there as a 19-year-old kid, and man, I couldn't believe anything like that really even existed, you know, and it was like heaven on earth, you know, and there's strings and picks and guitars and everything they had, you know, and it was unbelievable. So I went quite a few times when I lived in Los Angeles, and then obviously I've been here for 33 years and make it pretty much every year.
That's fantastic, yeah. Well, I know you've been very much a part of the community too. I mean, a little bit of what you were saying, meeting old friends and so on. How important is that to you?
Well, I think that's the reason to live is because of companionship, you know, and make friends. And yesterday I got to see a friend I made when I joined the band when I was 19. Moved out there to California. He's repping a product here, and we got to catch up and just visit. And you know, when you're a young kid and you're a young musician and you meet somebody that you kind of look up to, and they're nice to you and welcoming and maybe have a conversation with you and give you a set of strings or something or whatever, it's like it makes an impact that when you're young you don't ever forget it. And that's kind of what's unique about, like I said, a lot of these friendships, they go back pretty much the entirety of my musical life. It's big fun.
One of the things, of course, that NAMM wants to focus on is encouraging other people to become music makers and the importance of music ed. And I wonder if we could talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I'm obviously an advocate for it because of what it's given me in my life. And I encourage it in my own kids, and several of our kids are very, very musical and love to sing, love to write, love to play, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's important, you know, I think it's been proven that it's important for the creative side of your brain to get stimulated. And you know, I can't even, you know, fathom life without music. So I'm all for it. You know, I know that in the arts and the school programs and things like that, when money's tight, the first thing to go might be that creative-minded stuff rather than the science and the math and the English and that kind of stuff. And, I'm one to prove and show that side of the brain didn't quite pan out like the creative side.
So did you have music teachers as a kid or people that encouraged you in that way?
I did have some. I when I was really young, I took violin lessons, you know, when I was in grade school. I think I started in third grade. And around the same time, I took piano lessons too from a little old lady down the street. She kind of smelled like mothballs. That was nothing but a nightmare, having to go down to her house and try to learn to play the piano. And that didn't take, so that only lasted a short while. And I really regret that. I wish that I'd have stayed with learning theory and playing the piano, and it probably would give me a much broader vocabulary musically than I have now. And then with the violin, I was playing guitar too. I'd always played guitar even before I started taking lessons with piano or violin. And I got a mean teacher in 6th grade, and I just quit. And she was so mean that it wasn't even. I didn't want to have to deal with that. And I took a few guitar lessons in junior high school from this guy that mostly talked on the phone during my lesson and just would show me songs. And I enjoyed what I was doing, but I don't know that I learned a whole lot. But you know, I think a good balance of all that stuff's healthy for anybody that's musical. And like I said, I regret not having you know, things have turned out great. You can, you know, say, well, how can you say that? You've done so well. But in my own head, in my own heart, I wish I had a broader palette with which to, you know, to color from.
That's really cool. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that connection also with music. You know, like, for example, how do you describe the feeling of connecting with your instrument?
Well, it's, as I look back at, you know, in those years when I was a kid and I was trying to learn to play, and I was up there in my room with records and playing them over and over and trying to figure out what they were. We didn't have anything visual that we could see how they did that, and it was a different time. Now, young people, they got the internet, they can go YouTube, they can go all over the place and actually see firsthand how some of these things were done. And it was, it was like some of my favorite guitar players. I'd hear these licks they'd play and I'd learn them, and then I finally got to see them play them, and I go, oh, they're not even playing them on those strings, they're playing them down here or up here, on whatever. And it just, the visual side of it was something that was really powerful when you finally got a chance to see how somebody did something. And there was a music show on the weekend or whatever. I was always glued to those and trying to watch and learn because, like I said, all my training was done pretty much by ear. And so away I went.
Yes, you did. The other thing that I think is fascinating is the connection that people have with lyrics. The music, of course, draws you in, but the powerfulness of lyrics. I wonder what your thoughts are, and I'd love to talk a little bit about some of your favorite lyrics and things that really mean something to you.
Well, I think I'd always known that I wanted to write songs. I was probably more connected to songs with stories in them than I was instrumental music. I love great players, and it's just as much a conversation as telling a story is, but at the end of the day, I'd rather tell a story with word. And I kind of go both ways. I'm kind of okay with instrumental music as much as I am somebody telling me a great story. And the real key to doing any of this is it's like having a conversation with somebody. When you play or sing a song or you write a song and you want somebody to hear it, you want somebody to respond. That's the reason you do it. It's a great feeling to create something and be able to play in the room and hear yourself play and sing, but the real gift is when somebody responds to it. And that's kind of the thing that, whatever that insecurity is in you that makes you brave enough to stand up in front of somebody and perform. That's an interesting phenomenon that you have the courage to stand up there and try to do something that somebody will respond to or like, or the insecurity is that they won't like it. But there's probably something within us that insecurity that needs some security of a response. And that's what I just love is having that conversation, whether it's with another musician, whether it's with another singer, or whether it's somebody in the audience listening, or somebody out there on the radio, playing the radio. You want to connect. And, I don't think I've ever been hung up on impressing anybody as much as I wanted to move somebody. I think music has always made me feel something, and that's what I'm drawn to most, much more so than the impressiveness of how much someone can play or how fast someone can play. That's what you see in a lot of kids, is they want to learn to play as fast as they can. I saw some kid here yesterday at NAMM, and on his tag it said world's fastest drummer. I said, how are you going to be able to ever play with anybody if you're faster than everybody?
The connection with lyrics is one of the things I was thinking about. Is like you were saying, telling a story, having that conversation, and sometimes when you hear something, you're like, man,
yeah,
I wish I had said that.
Sure, and that's what's powerful about things like that. Songs I've written, people would come up and say, that's how I felt about my relationship, but I couldn't tell them. I didn't know how to say it, and I got to take them that song and say, this is how I feel. And so, that's the beauty of any story. You write a book, you write a song, you're wanting to do something that's somewhat universal, that people can hear and put their own skin in it, put their own, life in it and whatnot. And I think that's when you make that connection. Because if you get to, Merle Haggard was about the best at it of anybody in the world. He said all the things that I think a lot of people felt but didn't know how to.
Which of his lyrics come to mind?
Anyone.
Any and all.
Mama Tried is pretty hard to beat.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. Yeah. One of my favorite moments with you was watching you on the Grand Ole Opry when Mr. Acuff was next to you mouthing the words.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, it was pretty surreal. A lot of people, they didn't understand why he stood so close to me. He always did that, but it's because he couldn't see very far at all, and he had to get right up on you to be able to actually see. And that's one of my most treasured memories in my life, is singing When I Call Your Name and seeing the tears in his eyes.
Talk about moving. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, there's, one of the true great patriarchs of this music we love, and just as honest and as matter of fact and as real as a human being could get. That was Mr. Acuff, and so grateful that he liked what I did. That's what you hope. You hope your heroes like what you do. A lot of times that's not the case. Just because it's the next generation and we're going to do things different than the one before us, and the one after us is going to do different than what we did, and this and that. So it's always a constant hope that your heroes like what you do.
Well said.
Talking Up Music Education is a podcast created by the NAMM Foundation. To learn more about how you can support music education in your community, or how you can be part of the work of the NAMM Foundation, visit our website, www.nammfoundation.org, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/NAMM Foundation. You can also follow Mary on Twitter at MaryLNAMM.